Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we can have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the weather warnings. We still do have some yellow rain warnings issued for southern parts of Wales through tonight and for parts of the Midlands and northern England through tomorrow. Now the issue we have is with the amount of rainfall that fell from Storm Babet and of course all the rain associated with that system before it and after it. It does mean the ground is completely saturated. So any heavier pulses of rainfall that we will see in the next couple of weeks is likely to cause issues in places, and that's why we've got these weather warnings issued. Not because the amount of rainfall we're going to see is out of this world and is warning worthy by itself, but more because of the saturated ground. So we'll have a look at those latest weather warnings, and then we'll run through the latest UKV to look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it has been a relatively settled past 48 hours, but things are turning a lot more unsettled through tonight, as you can see from the live radar, with the weather fronts moving in, and it's going to continue to go on a downhill trend towards the weekend, where we could see some more very unsettled conditions, and there even is the risk we could see more storm systems moving in, whether we get more named storm systems or more just generally deep areas of low pressure. We can't say for certain at this time frame, but it is looking like it's going to get much worse once again as we head into the weekend and start of November. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see a few weather fronts moving in at the moment. We've got this massive rain just clipping eastern England at the moment, but it will swerve more inland overnight tonight into tomorrow and kind of stall again across parts of the Midlands and northern England, and there is another yellow warning issued for that. We've got a bit of a squall line here developing on a bit of a cold front, again associated with a weakening Atlantic system. It is moving very slowly, and there is another weather warning, rain warning issued for South Wales. You get some very heavy rainfall rates pushing in, and although southern Wales didn't see the brunt of Storm Babet through the weekend or any of the rain associated with it, still has relatively saturated ground, and with these rainfall intensities it could cause flooding even without saturated ground. So we've got to keep a very close eye on that overnight tonight into tomorrow. But elsewhere it is relatively dry, and it's been a relatively mild autumnal day. It may feel cold out there, but that is just the time of year, unfortunately. As you can see, most areas as of this evening around 8 p.m. are in the lighter yellows into blues, again around the low teens mark. Now, if you look at the weather warnings, you can see, if you just quickly refresh it, doesn't look like the graphics loaded, we've got this weather warning for southern and southwestern parts of Wales here, and that is for that squall feature. It does actually expire at midnight tonight, so only a few hours time, but again, you can see we only published a couple of hours ago, and again, it's for 20 to 30 millimetres in a few hours, maybe 40 to 50 millimetres, and again, it's for that heavy rain, bit of a squall feature developing within those showers. And we've got a larger warning for parts of the Midlands up towards northern England for tomorrow, starting at 3 a.m. and expiring at 4 p.m. And again, heavy rain at times. And you can see widely 10 to 20 millimetres, maybe as high as 30 to 50 millimetres. And by itself, I would argue that this probably doesn't actually warrant a weather warning. This amount of rainfall is a quite high amount, but it's not anything unheard of. It's something we see numerous times a year. And some of these areas see it tens of times of year, this sort of rainfall rate, 10 to 20 millimetres in a day. But it's because it's falling onto saturated ground, very high river levels already, and it's just going to exacerbate those issues. And some of these areas have seen significant flooding. I wouldn't suspect there will be significant flooding from this, but there could be some localised flooding issues, and it could spike those river levels once again in a few areas. So do be very wary of this through Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday. And then the other problem with this is it's going to be another miserable day, really. Even if we don't see any flooding issues for most of this area, it's going to be a pretty horrible day, as you can see now on the latest UKV. Now, as we head through this evening, see that rainfall in the east moves in, and those showers across South Wales do dissipate, or at least lose their intensity. And then through much of tomorrow, look at that rainfall just pretty stationary across northern England and the Midlands. It's giving a really horrible day. Even areas where we don't see the heaviest rainfall, only see a few millimetres of rainfall, it's going to be drizzly, cloudy, and generally quite horrible. Around the area of rain, there will be some showers, but for most areas, it will be drier. So hopefully, if you avoid that area of precipitation and cloud across northern England and the Midlands, it won't be too bad through tomorrow. As we said into Wednesday, some heavier showers clipping the far south, but shouldn't cause too many issues. And then into Wednesday, we see another weather front approaching off the Atlantic and giving another spell of widespread heavy rain, only lasting a few hours through the early hours of Thursday morning, but behind it, lots of heavy showers moving in. And you can see another centre of the low moves in, with more significant showers moving in for Saturday. It's after this, about a day or two after the end of this UKV run, where we could see those winds really pick up and we could see some more very heavy rainfall as more deep low pressure systems do arrive. We can't quite see on the latest UKV, unfortunately, but we're able to see it on some of the longer range models in a minute. You can even see at the extended range here of the UKV, you can see that those winds, they do start to gust a little bit, but nothing too significant at this stage. We'll just have to keep a very close eye on it. And if you look at the mean sea level pressure, you can see that there is a very deep area of low pressure nearby, but just to the south of this, there is one developing just off of the graphic here that could skirt through and give, as I said, more severe conditions. Now, we just finished on the UKV by having a look at the latest temperatures. You can see this afternoon we saw low teens quite widely. As we head into tomorrow, once again, low teens, the most likely temperature again cooler under the cloud and rain. Into Wednesday, very similar temperatures. Thursday, again, low teens, maybe touching 15, 16 degrees in a few spots. And Friday, once again, we're looking at the low teens. As you can see, the temperatures are fairly stationary, pretty much the same most days, and that's because the air masses are fluctuating around average, and any change in air mass we see doesn't really last long enough to impact the surface temperatures all too much. So we are generally just going to hover around the October average for the next week or so. Now, if you now have a look at the latest GFS, you can see we're kind of in between weather systems at the moment, and that's why it's not too unsettled at the moment. But lower pressure will be returning, and that will bring more rain and showers through the rest of this week. Into the weekend, you can see low pressure does arrive, but it's not anything too vigorous by Saturday. But as I said, watch this low developing on the southern edge of the main low that we saw in the UKV. It spins up, and look at that, really quite severe system moves in. Again, uncertainty exactly how deep it will be and whether it does lose some of its intensity on approach, but regardless, would give gusty winds, heavy showers, and probably some persistent rain as its weather fronts arrive through Sunday. Beyond that, regardless of what happens to that low, look at the Atlantic. It powers up and we see more significant lows moving in from the west and very unsettled conditions, stormy weather as we head into early November. The jet stream coming straight in off the Atlantic with oscillating air masses, big collisions between warm mid-Atlantic air masses and cold Arctic air masses, just powering the low pressure systems, giving us really quite horrible conditions. And again, it's emphasised by looking at the accumulated precipitation. You just see this whole wad of pink and purple across the North Atlantic, including the British Isles. We are bang in the middle of all the heavy rain coming from Atlantic low pressure systems. Now, if you have a look at the latest GM, see how this does compare. Again, we do see low pressure move in for the weekend. And then we see that secondary low develop through Sunday. Again, not quite as severe as the GFS, but regardless, could still cause some issues, could still see some weather warnings from it. And then we see more deeper lows trying to move it at day 10. But interestingly, we do see this blocking pattern develop up towards Greenland. Again, it doesn't developing anything too cold for us. In fact, it just slows down the progression of these deep low pressure systems. Again, could give us more rainfall, but ahead of these lows, could actually see some very warm air for a time. So that blocking pattern isn't likely to bring us anything drier, isn't looking likely to bring us anything colder. What it could do is could stall the lows a little bit, bringing maybe some milder air, but also keeping the heavy rain, the gusty winds around for longer periods of time. As without that blocking high, the jet stream should shift to these lows through quite quickly, because here they do move relatively slowly, or at least slower than they usually would, because of that high pressure blocking towards Greenland, Iceland and Svalbard. If you do compare to the ECMWF, again, look at the lows moving in over the next few days. As we head into the weekend, again, we could see that secondary low develop again, around to 980 millibars, maybe 970 towards the centre. Continuing to look very unsettled towards day 10. And once again, seeing this blocking pattern develop. It's not bringing anything cold, not bringing anything really settled. Again, just stalling these weather fronts. If you look at the accumulated precipitation, it just traps all the rainfall to the south of that block, including over our shores, unfortunately. Now, if we finish by looking at the latest ensembles, if we start on the latest GFS ensembles that have just come out, you can see that we've got lots of heavy rain developing over the coming days, and you can see the upper air temperatures are generally around average. Actually, some are trending slightly below average in the longer term. and lots of rainfall, keeping it very unsettled. A typical autumnal stormy pattern. If we do look at the sea level pressure, you can see that little dip through Sunday here. This is where we could see another storm system move in. It's generally low pressure around for the foreseeable future, but definitely as we head into the last couple of days of October, towards the weekend and start of next working week, could see a little dip in pressure, and that could really gust those winds up. You can see a few models and some members here spiking those winds on Sunday. Again, a minority, maybe a third to a quarter, but again, we have to take note of that as it could spark the arrival of another storm system into the weekend. Need to keep a very close eye, as I said. And you saw from the latest runs, it's a southerly tracking system. So generally, those southerly tracking systems, because they impact more densely populated areas, it does mean that 70 miles per hour in London would probably warrant an amber warning, whereas 70 miles an hour in Scotland or across the Isles of Scotland out to sea would warrant a yellow warning, or maybe even no warning in certain circumstances. So no two low pressure systems are the same, and we'll just have to keep a close eye on it. See, the 2 mean temperatures are fairly stationary, if not trending lower into the longer term, but again, that's inevitable as we head towards winter, but definitely no signs of anything particularly warm. A few odd warmer runs, but equally some odd colder runs that kind of cancel each other out. And if we do look at the ECMWF, again, very similar, generally around average those temperatures, some cold, some mild, lots of rainfall, and again, the sea level pressure, not as much as a significant dip on Sunday, but regardless, still generally pretty deep low there. And finally, just look at Glasgow to compare for Scotland, and again, lots of low pressure. Upper air temperatures are looking generally around average, maybe more slightly below, and lots of heavy rainfall. Actually, though, the next couple of days doesn't look too bad, but the rainfall arriving or returning by the weekend at the latest. So yeah, not looking great over the next few days, or even the next few weeks. It is going to be turning more unsettled in the next couple of days, but it could turn really unsettled once we get into the weekend. We could see another storm system develop, and this time with more of its significant impacts perhaps across southern England, but it is still almost a week away, so things can change, and we'll have to keep a very close eye on it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.